what's a skill or talent you'd like to share with us?
Oh man, I wonder what you're thinking. So in doing CrossFit, one of the things that you do sometimes is like a max lift. And so early on when I started in like 2013, there was a max deadlift day. And so I worked up to my max deadlift, and the first time I ever tried to do the heaviest weight ever, I hit 305. And I just remember this girl that was like training for powerlifting, she like watched me and just like literally just walked out. And I was like, what? Like it's hard? Um, so like for years, literally people were like, you need to enter a powerlifting meet. But I was good at deadlift. I wasn't that great at squatting and I wasn't great at bench, and honestly still not that great at bench. I need some tips from your mom and your dad. Um, but so it wasn't until 2020 that I finally entered my first powerlifting meet. And so it was in Ohio. I show up, I'm in a 75 kilo weight class, and literally like I'm almost 5'9", and everyone in my weight class was like 6 inches shorter than me. They like comparatively like
Yeah.
I don't look like a powerlifter at all. And honestly, I wouldn't even. I was someone that had entered my first powerlifting meet. I really hadn't. I wouldn't have considered myself a powerlifter yet. But I'd worked on my squat. I worked on my bench, and those were fine. My first meet, I hit like a 280 back squat, and then or 290 back squat, and then like a 145 bench or something. But my deadlift, I hit 415, which ended up being the state record in my weight class. And then I also got the total state record. So my first powerlifting meet, I set 2 state records in Ohio, which was like really cool. So then I got like the bug, and I was like, oh, this is fun. So I qualified for nationals that year. And I went and competed at nationals, and I improved my squat a little bit. I think I got up to like 300. My bench was like 155. My deadlift, my second attempt was like 408, and then I was like going up to like 420 or whatever. And I missed it on my last one, unfortunately. But fast forward to now, obviously I live in Oregon, and I did a meet in January of 2023, and I hit a 435 deadlift, which set the Oregon state record, which is really cool. And then I did another meet in November, and I hit 440, so I have the state record in that. And then I also have the total record now. I think it's like 952. So I did a 340 back squat. So my back squat's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
340 back squat, 175 bench, and then a 440 deadlift. So currently I hold 4 state records in powerlifting.
That's amazing. It's funny because when I talk to my dad, he always says that too. If you're really good at deadlift, you're probably not good at bench, and if you're really good at bench, you're probably not good at deadlift. And it's because it's 2 different body types, right? That are doing that. But it doesn't mean you can't get better. But they'd be so down for taking you through some bench training. By the way, if you ever get the chance, just come to Lake of the Ozarks. Like they would literally do it. I've had them. Like I had a buddy who was competing too in all those, and he was like, hey, would your dad want to show? And you're like, yeah, he could do that. Actually, if you watch the episode, it was Tim. He was episode 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah.
On here. But yeah, he just went to the lake, and they were like, yeah, just hop, and they just gave some pointers. So if you ever want to, I guarantee they'd be down just to take you through a workout and teach you some of that. So
I'd love it.
Cool. That's awesome. That's crazy. That's so cool that you've crazy powerlifting. So 435, huh?
440.
440. Gosh.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's crazy. Okay, so what's the next goal? What are you trying to get?
Well, so now that I'm doing high rock, and running like 5 miles at a time, I know you know this, but obviously like cardio and powerlifting, very counterproductive.
Yep.
So I've literally had to like be reasonable with myself and say, okay, you're not going to be as strong when you're training for high rock, but like this is what I'm focused on right now. So I'm still gonna do. I still like lift, just not as, you know, heavy, not as much, because just my goals are different right now, and I'm not closing the door on listening by any means. I'm too hungry for more. But what's funny is I've never had a powerlifting coach. Reason being because I know the first thing they would say to me is you got to quit CrossFit, you got to quit high rocks. And I'm like, no, I want to do it all. So I, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and know that, I'm not going to be as strong for a little while high rocks is my focus. But my plan is to do Chicago high rocks, and then I want to do an international high rocks next summer, because I I will hit 12 years with Nike, and I still haven't taken my 10-year sabbatical. So plan is to go to Europe next summer and do high rocks and out there.
That'll be awesome. So you get to enjoy the view too.
Yeah,
That'll be
it'll
fun.
be great.
Yeah, and that's a healthy perspective too. Like I think too many people like don't want to, like they maybe get discouraged of like, hey, well, I'm doing this, but now my weightlift or my powerlifting is going down, et cetera. Right? Sometimes people
Hmm.
get discouraged, but I think it's a healthy perspective of thinking that like, hey, like I have to let something go a little bit so I can focus on this, right? And just know that like,
Hmm.
hey, this I'm not going to be lifting as much weight, but that's okay. And I think that's definitely a
Hmm.
healthy perspective that I think a lot of people need to adopt too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at like Matt Fraser. Um, you know, he was a 5-time CrossFit Games champion. Before he ever won his first CrossFit Games, he was a weightlifter, and he continued weightlifting and then started doing CrossFit. And he just like he would podium, he would do well, but he could never quite get to the top until he focused less on weightlifting and focused more on his opportunities.
Yep,
So he wasn't quite as strong. He was still insanely strong, but he got better at all his other movements, and then
exactly,
he goes and wins the CrossFit Games 5 years in a row.
exactly. Yeah,
That's something that like CrossFitters, a good CrossFitter is really not great at anything, but they're good at everything. And that's where I struggle, because like I'm a weird CrossFitter because I'm good at endurance and I'm good at strength, but when it comes to gymnastics, yikes, I'm not good. I've got bad shoulders. I don't really do handstand stuff because like I also had a neck issue last year. So I'm like, I'm just gonna stay in my lane, know that I'll do really well on some workouts, and then I'll do really poorly, or I'll just scale, because I don't care to scale anymore if it's something that I know is potentially gonna injure me. I'm 33. I don't need to be doing handstand push-ups and hurting my neck.
that is very wise. Right. I've seen way too many people get injured in CrossFit. I guarantee it's because they're
Mhm.
doing things like that. They're not being okay with like, okay, so I'm just gonna admit this is where I am and this is the lane I'm gonna stick in. I think that's important sometimes. I mean, I get that like people want to push themselves sometimes, but you got to think at
Mhm.
what cost, right? There's consequences
Yeah,
to things. So like if you decide like, you know what, I'm not gonna accept that I'm bad at handstands, we keep doing it, and then before you know it, you got a shoulder
yeah,
injury, and they're like, dang it.
yeah,
Well, I mean, that was kind of how it was going to play out. So, yeah,
yeah.
interesting.
I've had 2 shoulder surgeries, and it's because I was dumb. Like literally because I was dumb.
Okay,
And it
elaborate.
was so like one of the biggest like ways that people really like to like rag on CrossFit is kipping pull-ups, where you use your momentum to do pull-ups, and people are like, those aren't real pull-ups. Blah, blah. And I agree with it. It's not a strict pull-up, but they like we will have a workout where there's 100 pull-ups in it. You show me like anyone who can do 100 strict pull-ups in like a reasonable amount of time. It's literally very few people. So you have to find a way to, efficiently do pull-ups. So, our standard is you get the chin over the bar. But then we'll have workouts where it's like, okay, you're gonna do 10 strict pull-ups, and then you're gonna do some push-ups, and then you're gonna go run, and then you're gonna do a sled push. So one thing that I do now is strict pull up. Like I practice them. And recently I got up to the point where I can do 10 strict pull ups in a row. And like that's pretty good for like a female, especially like on like anyone, but like a
Yeah, that's very
female
good in
who
general.
don't have we don't have great upper body strength just naturally. Like we have to work on it. And then I coach CrossFit now, and I tell my athletes that you should not be doing kipping pull-ups until you can at least do 5 strict pull-ups straight, because you have to build the proper muscle to be able to withstand that kipping motion. So I was dumb in I wasn't good at strict pull-ups, and I was doing kipping pull-ups and just destroyed my shoulders because they weren't equipped for that. So now I really encourage people to do pull-ups, learn from me, and do strict pull-ups, and before they even attempt kipping one. So it's a mechanism for us to do pull-ups more efficiently, but I think strict pull-ups have their place as well.
That's crazy. You know what's funny too? I totally agree, and I decided to look this up real quick. It says that uh, only 17.4% of adult men can do a pull-up, and only 4.9% of adult women can do a single pull-up.
Wow. Yikes.
So like to say
We
that
need to
you
get
did
better.
10's good for anybody, but that's crazy to think that like that if you were just to say like, hey, do a pull-up, that only like 5% of women can do it and only 17% of men, like that's wild.
Yeah. It's a tough movement.
It is. It's funny too because I've noticed as I've gotten heavier from working out, they get harder and harder. It's frustrating.
Yep.
Because I gain like 40 pounds, and it's like 40 like healthy pounds, but still it's
Yeah.
like my pull-ups are still like, yeah, these kind of yeah, I'm not really improving a whole lot.
Well, then back to the conversation around like, okay, you want to be good at everything, not great at one thing. Like I'm sure you can do, 50 other things better than you were able to do before.
Of course,
So
yeah.
if you can do less pull-ups, like that's a good trade-off.
Yeah, I'd say I've always been a jack of all trades. I've always been good at a lot of things. I wouldn't say I was ever like amazing at anything, but yeah, I'd say I was good at a lot, so that makes sense.
Yeah, like back to my running days, like my best mile ever was a 5:09, and I will never be that fast again, like ever. But I can do like a 6:20, and then I can squat 340, and I can deadlift 440. Whereas before I could probably deadlift the bar and maybe squat a training bar. So
Yeah,
it's a trade-off, but like you just got to focus on what your goals are.
yeah, exactly. Sounds like a good trade-off